All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October 12th, 2023 BART board meeting. I just have this backward. District Secretary, can we please call roll?
Certainly. Director Saltzman? Here. Director Simon? Director Allen? Director Ames?
Here.
Director Dufty? Here. Vice President Foley?
Present.
Director McPartlin? Director Rayburn?
Here.
President Lee?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
And VP Foley, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Sure.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And before we begin our meeting, I would like for us to take a moment of silence for the hundreds of innocent civilians who have been killed and injured in Israel and Gaza for many, many years, but certainly in the violence over the last few days. Thank you. And we will close today's meeting in their memories. With that, I know we have many, many special guests here today. I'm really excited about all the appointees to our different advisory committees, but we'll take those for under public comment under consent calendar. I would actually like to now hand it over to Director Dufty to recognize some of our lovely BART staff.
Thank you so much. On Tuesday, October 3rd, the Office of Administration hosted the first ever BART Employee Career Fair, and it was a resounding success, thanks to the hard work of our incredible HR team led by Rosalind Bowles. The event's primary focus was to offer opportunities for BART employees to engage with all divisions of the HR team and various other departments on upward mobility opportunities. Key departments who participated in the event were Labor Relations, Procurement, Transportation, Capital Corridor, Operations Control Center, Infrastructure and Delivery, BART Police Department, Rolling Stock and Shop, and Maintenance, and our Rail Goods Retail Pop-Up Shop, and the Employee Resource Group, ERG. In addition, our AFSCME union partners, and we'll hear from Sal Cruz in a moment, attended and hosted a table, and there was also representation from some of BART's external partners, such as Employee Assistance Program and Mission Square. Lastly, as a result of our collaboration with Kaiser Permanente, we were able to administer 127 flu shots to our employees. Over 100 BART employees registered and attended our resume writing and interview skills training session. Bob Powers was in attendance, but he did not produce a new resume, so no one needs to worry. To ensure that there were equitable opportunities for employees to attend, morning and afternoon time slots were offered. In addition, our HR department showcased a new leadership development opportunity utilizing Brene Brown's Dare to Lead course, which will be available to district employees in the near future. It was inspiring to see our collective effort brought aspiring talent and transit industry professionals together. By sharing our experiences and knowledge, we are nurturing the next generation of transit leaders. I applaud the enthusiasm and expertise staff brought to our career fair, demonstrating our commitment to developing not only our services, but the talented individuals who will carry our mission forward. HR is already planning opportunities to host a series of career fair roadshows for our satellite shop locations in the near future. Please keep an eye out for future details. And if we could have a round of applause for all the folks that helped make this possible. So I'd like to give Ms. Bolts an opportunity to share her perspective, and then I'm so pleased that Sal Cruz is here from AFSCME, and I know he'll bring some remarks, and I believe that John Orantes will be on Zoom with us. Rosalind?
Thank you, Director Dufty. I just wanted to take this time to actually thank the entire HR team. Some are sitting back there this morning.
Can you have them stand? And
yes, please stand. So I wanted to thank them for their tireless effort and their energy that it took to put together this event. Took a lot of hard work, but they were up for the task. And I especially want to thank Tara Hill, who is one of the district's recruiters, who actually brought this idea to the team, as well as Candace Brown, who was our talent manager, who worked diligently to make this happen. So again, thank you to the entire HR team, but I also want to thank Bob Powers, our general manager, Michael Jones, deputy general manager, and my boss, AGM Alaric DeGraffenreid, for supporting our vision, which they continue to do. And lastly, I want to thank the board of directors, those that were able to attend. We saw you there, and we just thank you for your support as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And can we invite Sal Cruz to come forward and then have John Orantes join us by Zoom? And thank you so much for sponsoring a table.
Good morning, directors and general manager. On behalf of AFSCME Local 3993's 430 represented professionals and supervisors, thank you for hosting this event. It was a great event. We hope to see more of them. It was a great opportunity to meet BART employees, future BART employees. We did our best to recruit future prospective employees, so we hope it turns out to actual folks being hired to represent in different departments where AFSCME has members. So once again, on behalf of our employees, thank you very much.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, we'll go to John.
Good morning, John.
John, please go ahead. Please accept the unmute request. I'll send it right now. Oh, there we go.
Good morning, everybody. John Orantes, President of BART Chapter SAU 1021. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather today. I just want to say thank you to the HR department, Rosalind Bowles, Antoinette Cante. This is such a departure from the old days where it was very hard for internal applicants to have an opportunity to move up the ladder and also to go into lateral positions, some new adventures they would want to follow, just like mechanics wanting to become electronic technicians. And this kind of follows in the heels of the great training programs that we created for utility workers to become electronic technicians and revenue vehicle mechanics. So one thing people don't understand, some people, BART is very big, very large. People work in certain locations, sometimes 5 to 20 years, never see anybody else, don't get an opportunity. So what we have done over here the other day was an opportunity for them to come in, see what else is available out there, learn how to apply for other jobs, and continue in that vision of continue to work at BART. Because like I always say, working at BART is not a job, it is a career. And it is so awesome that we are investing on our internal forces and giving them opportunities. And that will lead to other people applying to BART at entry-level positions and move forward. So thank you, HR, and everybody that was committed and dedicated to this great achievement. Thank you.
Thank you. And John's remarks reminded me that Rosalind was very concerned, and her team were, that some of our employees have to work. They have to run the trains, and they can't just necessarily come on a particular day or at a particular time. And that's something that's very important as well. And I just want to close and say this is so much more than just a fair. This is really changing people's lives. And I think having people feel appreciated and respected. And I think that's one of the most important things that I've seen in the years that I've been at BART, is that I've seen leadership from Bob and others to really respect the people that work for us. Difficult jobs, not always fun, but coming in every day to do that work so we can run our system. Thank you all.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here. I'm really happy we had this moment. Thank you, Director Duffy, for being there and also recognizing our amazing employees. Yeah, great work. All right, we will now move on to, do we have to take public comment on that?
Yes, but I don't see any hands raised on Zoom. And I don't see anyone in the audience raise their hand, and I don't have any speaker cards.
Excellent. All right, we'll now move on to item 2, which is a report of the board president. Have just a few things here. First, I wanted to remind everyone that our board workshop is going to be on October 26th. This is where we are really going to dig deep into our budget, have this mid-year look. I know staff is doing a lot of work to get us prepped for that. Similar to the board retreat, I've asked staff to provide some additional details to be shared with board members in advance of our regular agenda mail-out time, so that gives us all a little bit more lead time to review what staff plans to bring before us on the 26th. The plan is for that to start at 10 a.m. and to end around 2 p.m., and that will be the main thing we do that day. And then another board meeting reminder is that November 16th will be our last afternoon meeting of the year. That is normally a 2 p.m. start time, but I assume we'll probably have some closed session beginning at 1 p.m., so please note that on your calendars. And then lastly, thank you, VP Foley, at our last meeting for stepping in to chair this meeting. I had to hurry off to the Balboa Park Upper Yard opening. This is a 100% affordable housing project with 131 units where families have already begun moving in. There's a small piece of it that's actually on the Balboa Park Station area, but this is, everyone came out to celebrate. Senator Scott Wiener was there, Mayor London Breed was there, District 11 Supervisor Asha Safai was there, along with the many, many, many community partners who really pushed for this project throughout the many, many years. While this is seen as obviously a huge achievement for affordable housing, I just want to note that there are a lot of BART benefits here. The Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities program brought in a lot of dollars for transit improvements, including Fleet of Future cars, additional funding from San Francisco sales tax, our own Measure RR, Prop 1B, helped actually create a really, really nice new plaza space with a brand new design. There is an ADA accessible path, there's plantings and trees, there's a really nice passenger drop-off area, there's more community gathering spaces, there's real-time displays. The list sort of goes on and on and on, but this is really going to bring a lot of great public space improvements to Balboa Park Station. And I do really want to just thank the entire real estate team, the TOD team, but there have been a lot of BART staff throughout the years who helped make this project happen, including Nicole Franklin, Tim Chan, Molly Burke, Mike Wong, Jumana Nabti, and Hung Mei. So I just want to thank staff for all of their work through the, I don't know, probably 10 plus years to make this project happen. So I'll end my board president report there. And I did want to note that 2 quick things. I just want to welcome Gina to the days here. And also note that unfortunately Chris Gann is feeling under the weather today. So Todd, thank you so much for stepping in. Do we have any public comment on this?
I didn't receive any speaker cards on this item, and I don't see any hands raised on Zoom.
All right. We'll move on to item number 3, although I am not aware of any board committee reports, so I think we're actually good to go to the consent calendar. Can I entertain a motion?
Approval.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. So I know that we have a lot of esteemed guests here who are interested in speaking on this item. So let's take public comment on this. I would really like to invite Mike, Randall, and Bruce to the podium to share a little bit more about yourselves. I know many of you we know, some of you have served already for many years. So perhaps we'll have Randall if you want to come up first, or Bruce or Mike, whichever order.
Good morning, Board of Directors. My first name is Bruce. My last name is Yao, Y-O-W. I've applied for the with the BART Accessibility Task Force. I have extensive experience with public service, and I hope I, I hope I can I hope I can be of service to you all as an advisor to the board of directors. Thank you.
Good morning, board. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of you. Good to meet you all. I'm Randall. I'm the BATF chair, just reelected again. I just wanted to say thank you to you. Thank you for appointing new members. We've had a couple come to you before, and there's a few more in the works. So we are down like every committee, but we're working and we're there. We are your accessibility liaison, group that works and advises the board. So thank you very much to all of you, and thank you to the board for, appointing our new members.
Thank you. And Mike?
Hi, you threw me there for a second. I'm Lester, Mike Mensinger. I go by Lester. I wanted to thank Director Ames and the Board of Directors for appointing me for this position. The Citizens Review Board is an important body that was created in order to maintain and increase the level of trust between the citizens that ride BART and the BART police. Since its inception, I think that it's done a pretty good job of doing that. I think it's a model that other law enforcement agencies could, well benefit from if they were to create and utilize something similar to it. Again, I digress. I'm honored by this nomination, and I hope that I can serve with the same honor and integrity as my predecessor. Thank you.
I apologize for that, Lester, and thank you.
That was my
Dr. Ames.
fault. I apologize. I call you Mike and I didn't know. I guess I'm calling you. Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. Appreciate your.
Got it. Do we have any other in-person public comment for the consent calendar items?
I didn't receive any additional speaker cards.
And then do we have any online public comment for the consent calendar?
I don't see any hands raised on Zoom.
All right. Do we have any board comments on the consent calendar items as a whole? I know that these are some special appointees here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lester. Father, basically following in your father's footsteps, Les passed away as a CRB member. He was the first CRB member, I believe, that started this whole organization, and he helped develop the policies that are in place. And so I had heard at the celebration of Les's life that Mike, I call him, but I guess it's Les Messinger. He would talk about CRB issues and over the years, and really became engaged and is now following in his father's footsteps. So it's an honor to have you on the team, and look forward to hearing about your ideas moving forward on the CRB. Thank you so much.
All right. I'll just say, as always, thank you for your service. I know that these are all volunteer roles, and you help make BART a better system for our riders. I know that BATF particularly has a lot of work ahead as we, install new fare gates. You are going to be critical in ensuring that this project and its implementation is everything that we hope for, especially in terms of accessibility. So thank you. With that, can we take a roll call vote on this?
Certainly. Okay. Director Saltzman. Yes. Director Simon. Director Simon. Sorry, Director Simon? I'm so sorry. That's okay. Yes. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you. Director Allen? Director Ames?
Yes.
Director Duffy? Yes. Vice President Foley?
Aye.
Director McPartlin?
Aye.
Director Rayburn?
Yay.
President Lee?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you. And we will now move on to item number 5, GM's report. So Bob, all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, President Lee, members of the BART board. A couple items to keep you posted on and update you on. Let's start with ridership. This past weekend, we experienced our highest post-pandemic Saturday ridership at about 116,000 exits. And on Sunday, we were the third highest Sunday since the pandemic hit us, pushing almost 87,000 exits. So weekends looking pretty good. The past 2 weeks, ridership has been steadily improving. A lot to do with the Fleet Week was here. There was a couple of concerts, the good weather, and on top of that, providing the good, reliable service that we have. And so, all of those coming together, ridership is, hitting about 175,000 on a weekly basis there. So we keep our eye on that. A weekend shutdown. This shutdown, there's going to be a weekend shutdown for tree removal and other maintenance items. There's going to be a bus bridge between Concord and Pleasant Hill, and Shane and Rod are running point on that. So just to keep you posted there. Two other points I just wanted to make note of for the board here. BART this is Girls in Motion. And so BART is excited. We're going to host in this boardroom here a week from today on the 19th. It's the inaugural Girls Summit, Northern California Girls in Motion Summit. And the concept of the summit, we were asked to participate, and we not only are participating, we're going to host the event here, is to introduce high school girls to non-traditional and transportation industry careers for female workers. And the program is going to include some executive panel. I'll be there. Tess will be there from ACTC. Many of you on the board know Tess. And Bev Green, who has got Rod's job over at AC Transit. Many of you know Beverly Green there. And then it's going to be followed by a career track session. We'll have our engineers and our architects and planning and community engagement folks there. It's going to be kind of a hands-on activity. So that'll be Thursday in this boardroom at 4:00 p.m. if you have time on your schedule there. Next Thursday also will be the Great Shakeout. And BART obviously and has always participated in the Great Shakeout drill to test our emergency preparedness. So at 10:29, staff will trigger the shake alert, which is the early warning earthquake system, and trains are going to slow down to 27 miles per hour, and then all trains will come to a very brief stop. We'll make the system-wide public announcements, Shane, encouraging riders to prepare for earthquakes. And so this will be monitored and put into action on Thursday, the 19th, as part of the Great Shakeout earthquake drill. And so the other, one more item here, celebration of Heritage, Hispanic Heritage Month continues, and it's this month going on. We're going to have a noon celebration up on the rooftop here, and we're calling this, it's kind of a pop-up paleta party, and a paleta, and I'm learning this, is a sweet frozen treat on a stick, usually made from fruits, and it's very popular in Mexico. And so we're going to do a little pop-up on the roof today at noon during the lunch break here. And so if you're there, what's that? Is it paleta or paleta? Paleta. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. All right. Okay. This isn't. Yes. I appreciate that comment. Thank you, Director Simon. Okay, those are some of the updates for the board here. And then I did want to, a little bit less scripted of a update for the board. So Kevin's up here, Kevin Franklin, Chief of Police. So Kevin, I appointed Kevin Franklin, the BART Chief of Police, the 8th BART Chief of Police, I believe, on October 2nd. And this was after a very thorough, encompassing nationwide search led by Alaric de Graffenried, with input from the CRB, with input from the OIPA. And after all of that, the shortlisting, the interviews, first round, second round, all of that, I appointed Kevin the 8th Chief of Police effective the 2nd October. And I thought it would be very respectful for Kevin to say a few words in his first BART board meeting as the official BART Chief of Police. Kevin?
Thank you very much, General Manager. I really appreciate your confidence, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to serve and lead the department. It is a great honor. I actually feel very humbled. We will be continuing to focus on the presence in the system, on supporting our progressive policing team, doing the groundbreaking, the trail blazing work that we are doing around progressive policing, so the opportunity to do that. But the message that I've had for our employees is the reason I have this opportunity to serve is because of the hard work that they have been doing out in the system to be more visible, to do more with the resources that we have, to do the recruiting that needs to be done to fill our vacancies, to get our staffing numbers up, both on our sworn positions and maintain our staffing in our civilian positions. And I just thank you for the opportunity to serve, and I'm looking forward to the future. There's a lot of work to be done, but we have a team right now that is really ready to take that challenge on and do that work. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief Kevin. Yeah. Okay, one last item to just keep everybody together. I just returned from APTA. I am on the board for the APTA, and we went there. I went there obviously for the board meetings and a lot of other stuff going on. But one of the big events there was they do national awards. They're a big deal. They really are a big deal. One of the only agencies out there that do annual national awards. And BART was awarded the National Innovation Award. And in front of you here is Deputy Chief Jason Scott and BART Chief of Staff for the Police Department, Olivia Jackson. And my version of this is, so Olivia took it upon herself, to write up the award, pull the information together. It was for our progressive policing, and this board has been very supportive of that. So Olivia took it upon herself to write it up. She worked with Alicia, she's back here, Alicia, on the communications piece of it. There was a video associated with it that had to go, and it had to compete nationwide against everybody else that submitted on the thing. I wasn't even tracking on with all that we submitted on this. It's not, that's just to show what kind of a team we have here. It really does. And then we won, right? And we won, and Deputy Chief Scott fronts our Progressive Policing Bureau. And, we went up on the stage and, all of that, and some photos going on there. And then the deputy chief gave a talk about, how he came to be a police, deputy police chief from early on, and his childhood and going through high school and that. And just so well received. People are lining up to talk to the deputy chief and Olivia about our program. I've been very clear with any transit agency out there, any jurisdiction, take our program, sand it down, take what you like, what you don't like, make it your own. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Give them our job descriptions, give them everything, roles and responsibilities. And so just a very proud moment for BART, and that we were on stage to receive this award. So Deputy Chief and Olivia, just from the General Manager's office, from Michael and I, just congratulations to you and to your staff. I know it's more than just the two of you, I get that, but you took the initiative and your leadership, Deputy Chief, so thank you for that. Okay, so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, President Lee and board directors.
Well, first public comment, but the district secretary had an update about public comment.
Yes, thank you. So where was an issue that we resolved on Zoom, was previously not able to raise your hand, but you should be now able to hit the raise hand button on Zoom, or if you're calling in, hit *9. So that should be resolved. And if you missed an opportunity to make public comment earlier, please feel free to do so and raise your hand.
Thank you. It doesn't look like we have any in-person public comment. I didn't get any speaker cards, so let's go to online public comment first.
Yes, and we have a hand raised on Zoom. So Alita, we'll first go to you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, President Janice Lee and members. Alita Dupree for the record. My pronouns are she and her. I actually called in about the Zoom issue, so I'm sure I'm going to talk about that later. But about the general manager's report, I'm always appreciative of Bob reports as always. Ridership seems to be doing well, and we're doing this work with this Girls in Action. We just have to remember that women and girls come in all different forms. So we want to make sure that we have an expansive attitude and mindset about that. We don't want to pigeonhole. And I am very appreciative of Kevin Franklin being the new permanently appointed chief of police. I have gotten to meet Kevin Franklin. Kevin has shown me a shared ideal in BART being a system that is about people, and about welcoming people onto this system. And have I been muted again?
No, we
Can
can
you
hear you
still
just
hear
fine,
me?
Alita.
Okay, all right. I got one of those strange dialogue boxes. So anyway, I'm very fortunate to have met Kevin Franklin, and I'm looking forward to seeing Kevin Franklin continue on as permanently installed chief of police. And I do hear the mention about the Progressive Policing Bureau and the award. This is good work, but we always have to remember that when we do this kind of progressive work, we cannot be hidebound by definitions. I'm a person who does not meet definitions, so we have to make sure that there's a catch-all in any of this to ensure that people who don't fit definitions, we don't want them to fall through the cracks. So again, I will have to replay some of this report. Later on, I'll address the issues I would have liked to have commented on consent. Hopefully we can carve that out later. But anyway, I'm very appreciative of Bob's report, that it continues to reflect the idea that BART is the people's system. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. Do we have any other public comment for the general manager's report?
No, I don't see any additional hands raised.
Okay, seeing none, I'll see if my board colleagues have any comment on this. Director Simon?
Super excited about the APTA award. I mean, what a big deal. So, Deputy Chief, congratulations. And Chief Franklin, I don't know when the party is, but I certainly think that you're deserving of when you took over a legacy that is a big legacy to hold, and they're big shoes from our last chief, who really came up in this department, spent his whole life in this department, and I couldn't be more personally thrilled with your leadership and the leadership of your senior team for a couple of reasons. I mean, you all deeply understand that public safety is about prevention, response, coupled with intervention, and that public safety on our trains, it is completely linked to what our city leaders are doing, what our community service providers are doing, and how we approach folks in deep danger and folks who also deeply need an opportunity to leave our system and get help. Your approach, it's not only award-winning, it's smart, it is thoughtful, and like any other sector, whether it be tech or whether it be medicine, you, Chief Franklin, understand that intervention and thoughtfulness in public safety really is also about innovation. And so I think I speak for not only the board, but the public. It is a really exciting time to have great leadership in our system. And I think for those folks who hear a progressive policing unit, I might be one of those who might say, we might need to think about changing that name. It's not progressive, it's good public safety, because what we've figured out, what you all have figured out, beyond the ideology of progressive left or right, is that folks in danger deserve quick response times. In the city of Oakland, and again, I have family members who serve, I have family members who are in fire and police. My uncle was the fire chief for 20 years here in Oakland, so I have to watch my words. In Oakland and Berkeley, even in San Francisco, when folks are struggling and they call for help, it's going to take a long time for them to get help. In our system, because of y'all's leadership, when folks are struggling, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Franklin, in San Francisco, the response time for an armed police officer, even in a very dangerous situation, is upwards of 25 minutes. Because you all have been very smart to develop a safety staff of unarmed and armed staff, our response time for an armed officer, I believe now, is under 6 minutes throughout 5 counties. Is that right?
So our standard that we hold ourselves to is a 5-minute response time for priority 1 emergencies, and our average has been 4 minutes or less. So we are exceeding our standard, but we're always working hard to be there and be in the right places.
And I think that that is the goal. We're not talking about in what you all have created a standard of public safety that is not meeting people's needs. It's about placing trained armed officers where they need to be and ensuring that the lower level issues are met by folks who can aid those folks. So again, just deep applause. And I think we should do more storytelling and really educate folks on what we're doing and why we're doing it. It is exactly that. If there is a young woman who's being trafficked, or if there's a domestic abuse dispute, if there's someone who's being found with a weapon, we can get there quickly because of the strategies you all implemented. So just thank you and congratulations. And I can't wait to see, again, further innovations to keep our folks safe. Thank you so much and congrats.
Thank you, Director Simon. Do any other board directors wish to make comment on the GM's report? Seeing none, I'll just say thank you. I echo everything Director Simon said. I just want to congratulate you, Chief Franklin. I've gotten to know you over the last several months since you've become Deputy Chief, Interim Chief, and now the Chief. I'm really excited to continue working with you. And I think that APTA award, I think people are going to be like, oh, well, you know, I've already seen the online public comments on this, but I think what a lot of people don't see is that when we originally passed the ambassador program, a lot of folks people were questioning whether it was going to work or not. And it's been clear that in these few short years, we have proven not only is it working, and not only have we maintained such incredible response times for emergencies, but it's becoming the standard across the board. And I don't know if it'll be brought up later, but SB 434 was actually just signed by Governor Newsom, which again was modeled on our Not One More Girl and our progressive policing work. So this is becoming a standard in California. And I'm really glad that you are being recognized for the work that you're doing, and that we will continue to push so that we can have the safest system we can. All right, seeing no other comment on this, we'll close this item and we'll now move on to general public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Directors on matters under our jurisdiction, but not on this agenda. You'll have 3 minutes. So I see one public comment in person, and that is from Barney Smits, if you'd like to come up to the podium. And if you are in the room here with us and would like to make a public comment, please do fill out the speaker cards. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I am Barney Smits, a licensed professional engineer, transit user, and taxpayer. Once again, okay, thank you. Once again, I'm here to speak to you about the VTA BSV2 project. The current design is more expensive, takes more time to construct, and is less safe. Some of the problems with the current BSV2 project have been indicated in my previous comments and in the hundreds of outstanding unresolved comments provided by BART Engineering. This board should be asking to see these comments and asking when these outstanding comments will be resolved. The most recent VTA board meeting presented an interesting and, should I say, scary update. In the PowerPoint presentation of the San Jose alignment had the usual 4 stations, but the previously indicated mid-tunnel vent structures seem to no longer be on the slides. These mid-tunnel vent structures house emergency ventilation fans, fire protection and water supplies, and access egress for safe operation of the tunnels. Is BART aware that these structures are being removed? Does BART agree with removing these critical safety facilities? The VTA-BART Comprehensive Agreement gives BART the authority to refuse to accept the removal of these critical safety features. The removal of these mid-tunnel vent structures reduces the level of the budget for these tunnels by about $500 million. This also significantly reduces the level of safety in the tunnels by as much as 30%. Every tunnel in the BART system has what is called system redundancy. System redundancy exceeds equipment redundancy because you are not just adding another fan or damper. The system provides both supply air and exhaust air. If the supply air side fails, you still have the exhaust side operating. If the exhaust side fails, you already have the supply side operating, protecting patrons, employees, and first responders. This project's proposed single-point extraction system does not have system redundancy and is less safe than the existing 50-year-old BART tunnels ventilation system. Safety systems with system redundancy are cheaper to build, cheaper to operate, and safer. In addition to the recent announcement that the project will now be costing $12.2 billion, the VTA website indicates an upcoming BSV2 workshop on October 20th. I believe that it would be in the board's interest and critical interest to maintain safety at BART to ask questions about the safety of large, deep, single-board tunnels when cheaper, faster, and safer projects with shallow and smaller tunnels is available to BART's patrons, employees, and first responders. I hope you consider these facts and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Barney, for your comment. Seeing no other in-person public comment, District Secretary will go to Zoom now.
Yes, thank you. We'll first go to Adina. Adina, please go ahead.
Hello, Adina Levin with Seamless Bay Area and Friends of Health.
Adina, it's a little bit difficult to hear you.
You can okay. You can hear me. You can hear me now. I fixed the problem. Wanted to comment on some side effects of the recent schedule changes. BART did recently flatten out the schedule to be more even throughout the week, which was, overall is, has a number of benefits, but it did have a side effect of breaking the Caltrain connection at Millbrae, where half of the trains now have an 18-minute wait. And so want to first read a couple of comments from a couple of riders and then talk about potentially improving matters. Susanna from Kensington says, I'm writing as someone who regularly tries to see my family on weekends, but is thwarted, because of the infrequency on the Caltrain side and also the connection. And then Lauren from Oakland transfers from BART at Millbrae to get to work in Redwood City. And the new BART schedule has increased her commute by about 10 to 15 minutes because of the transfer wait times. Please work. She's adjusting Caltrain. Please work with BART to minimize the transfer wait times as much as possible. Understand that addressing this issue is, not as easy as it might seem. This was a topic of discussion at the Caltrain board where, Executive Director Bouchard said that her staff on operations and finance and at the executive level, were, working with BART. There's issues with vehicles, with staffing, with costs. It might not be trivial, but we do encourage BART to be working with Caltrain on, whatever might be able to be possible in the near term. And then in the medium term, as BART, the biggest piece of the transit backbone, to be working with other agencies to get onto a regular cycle of coordinated schedule. This side effect happens to account for about 5% of Caltrain's ridership. But, from a even bigger picture than that, from the perspective of riders, we have one regional rail system that happens to have two colors of trains. And it's, like with all the regional motivation to provide seamless service, it is, good practice and good public perception to work to have a seamless connection, as if it were one system. So thanks in advance very much for working on this issue.
Thank you, Adina. I know I can't have a real back and forth, but I just want to very briefly just share that, I have been in touch with staff about this. I do want to clarify that BART and Caltrain staff communication remains very strong, and Caltrain staff were notified of these changes months before anything was ever implemented. As you know, our schedule changes were driven both by what our riders want to see, which, necessitate schedule changes, as well as our budget. So these were discussions held back in, May, June, well in advance of the schedule change that happened on September 11th. I have also been in touch with my counterpart, Jeff G, on the Caltrain board. So that communication and that coordination continues to happen. I know our respective communication staff has really been going in overdrive, making sure that everyone is aware of these schedule changes. We'll make sure we continue the communications and really push for schedule coordination as best as humanly possible. We'll continue with public comment.
Next, we'll go to Alita. Alita, please go ahead.
Thanks again, President Janice Lee and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her. So, as I speak generally, I did spend this past weekend in Oakland. I did ride BART twice. I am enjoying Fleet of the Future. It's nice to know that I can always get on a Fleet of the Future train. I'm going to miss the old trains, but they were noisy, and it's time to move on and make new history and have new traditions. So thank you for that. On Monday, I went to use the Oakland Airport connector, and I was not happy. We were stuck up on the trackway 40 feet over Hagenberger, I think for about 10 minutes. And when we did get back underway, we were operating at reduced speed. I did make my flight because I allow a lot of time, but that's very disconcerting when you're up there. There's no bathroom on board. What do you do? I mean, we all just sat there and nobody really said anything. But they should have had an alert about this. I have an app here. Don't know if any of you have ever heard of it. It's called My MTA. And I can pull up subway status and bus status and train status basically in real time. They're very good at this. I can see right now they're having delays on the DNR and W service. And they'll resolve that. So I think we need to have better information, because maybe I could have taken the AC Transit bus. We need to work on that airport connector. That should not happen. It should not happen again. In general, I want us to make sure that we have our Zoom up properly. I did not get to render consent calendar comments. I had things I wanted to say. We have to find out why we're not inspecting, making sure everything works before the meeting starts. Maybe I guess I'll write a letter to you about it. I did write you some letters. I hope that you got to see them. I got to show what a subway looks like. There are probably people in BART who don't know what a subway looks like. So now they get to know by reading my letters. Because I did use that system often. And it's a system that is legendary and stately, means a lot to me. I've been using it for 53 years. That's my pedigree. I'm very good at using the New York City subway. And I think I'm very good at using BART. And we have to do our work with Clipper to make sure that as we move away from the paper tickets, that everybody can get their value changed over, I guess redeemed, so they can take that money and put it on a Clipper account and use the system. So I hope to see you sometime soon, because BART is the people's system. Thank you.
don't see any additional hands raised.
I just see Director Rayburn, if you had a quick comment on public comment.
Thank you very much, President Lee. I only want to ask staff if we provide BART alerts for the Oakland Airport connector.
Shane Edwards, AGM of Operations. The answer is yes, Director. We do make announcements as well as updates as we get them from the operator.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Seeing no other public comment in the queue, we'll close this item. There are no admin items, so I'll actually hand it now to VP Foley for engineering and operations items. Oh, I'm sorry, Director McPartland.
I'd like, during public comment, the public comes up and they have the opportunity to request information or to end up giving their opinion. In the case of Barney Schmitz, who came up here, he ended up, he is a retired BART employee, and when I was in the safety department working on life safety issues, he was my collaborator and he was my partner. I am concerned about the issues that he has brought up, and I would like very much to have a detailed report on his questions and recommendations in relationship to the ventilation system in San Jose. Thank you. And please let me know as soon as possible when that might be available. Thank you.
We're not doing that.
So I had a couple things on this. So John, or Director McPartland, you serve on the joint BART VTA committee, is that correct?
I'm removed from it.
Oh, got it. Thank you for the reminder. There is an upcoming one that is to be scheduled, and I think this is a good thing for all of our directors to be aware of. In addition, my understanding is I have asked staff to see if you could bring back a VTA update to this body.
Yeah, President Lee, good morning. Michael Jones, Deputy General Manager. We sent out a memo to the board on the 6th of October indicating that we would be back in front of you on November 17th with a comprehensive VTA update. And there's also a joint committee meeting being scheduled for early December, in which it's already calendared for December. Yeah, so I think there'll be plenty of opportunities for VTA discussion here.
Yeah, I recognize we have not had an update before this body in quite some time. So Director McPartland, we have a couple of very critical opportunities, including before this entire board. And I hope that we can also have VTA staff presence there, because I do really think that they're the ones who need to really hear these comments as well.
President Lee.
Yes, Director Ames.
Thank you. There's a workshop, Mr. Smits, is it? He mentioned there's a workshop on October 20th. So maybe that's something that the board should attend. Is that in Santa VTA headquarters?
I assume it's at VTA headquarters, but Shane will know better than me.
I don't know the exact location, but it is an open public workshop.
Yeah.
And that's where we can vet these questions further at the workshop regarding ventilation that Mr. Smith was referring to.
There will be opportunity for that at that workshop. I believe the primary focus of it is the update on funding and strategy going forward for paying for the project, but construction things, design items do come up, yes.
All right, thank you for those additional comments. So we'll go back, and so I'll pass over VP Foley for E&O items.
Thank you, President Lee. Colleagues, we have two items today on the Engineering and Operations Committee for us, one for action and one for information, and they are both regarding train control. So let's turn it over to Shane. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Foley, Board of Directors, AGM of Operations, Shane Edwards. Today, the first item will be asking for authorization to award on a contract for Train Control Modernization Program Enabling Works Project. This is fundamental to the infrastructure prior to CBTC installation, and presenting on this item is Jeremy Tsai.
Good morning, directors.
I'm Jeremy Tsai. I'm the project manager for Enabling Works project. And this project is seeking board authorization for the general manager to award the train control modernization program Enabling Works project to DMZ Builders of Concord, California for $60,772,451. We have received 2 bids, and the lowest responsive bid is from a DMZ Builder, which is a 4.5% higher than the engineering cost estimate. DMZ Builder has exceeded both MBE and WBE availability percentage for this contract for 100%, at 100% for MBEs and 76.9% for WBE. This contract is funded by major RR and the state funds. The staff recommend the board to adopt this motion.
Thank you, Jeremy. Is there a motion? Motioned and seconded. Any public comment, Madam Secretary?
I didn't receive any speaker cards for this item, but we do have hand raised on Zoom. Okay, we'll go to Alita. Alita, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Marcoli. Alita Dupree for the record, she and her. I always stand for the importance of maintenance and keeping up our system. And I did read through the EDD on this. But I am asking myself, is this amount we're spending going to help credit a reduction toward when we go into CBTC in just a few years? Because this is very close to when we are going to be converting to CBTC. If I was sitting in your seat today, I would be asking, is this something that's going to carry over, or are we just going to be taking it out and tossing it aside when CBTC comes in? $16 million is a lot of money. So if this will credit a reduction towards CBTC and build out in the future, then I'm in support. But I don't want this to be like me buying a brand new car today, only to replace it and buy a brand new car 6 months from now, when maybe I could have kept the older car running, because new cars really depreciate over time and you can't really get back what you paid for them. I would ask the hard questions on this because I want this to be a forward-moving work as opposed to a Band-Aid that we're going to be ripping off soon anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. Do we have any additional public comment?
I don't see any additional hands raised.
All right. Shane, if I could ask, just to Alita's point, is this work that is in support of upcoming CBTC work?
Yeah, Director Foley, to answer your question, the short answer is what we would expect out of this with this infrastructure work ahead of CBTC is to reduce the opportunity for change orders on the CBTC project, because there are things like conduits, for example, that are full of water, for example, and copper cables do not react well with that, obviously. So to change all of that out ahead of time is money ahead.
Understood. Thank you. Let's see, for director comments, let's start with Director Allen, followed by Director Ames.
Thank you. And just following up on that question, is that the only, so what you just said about changing out bad conduits and things, is that the only component of this work?
No, it's also upgrading the connections to the train control room, which, as I think all of you are aware, we have multiple train control systems within our system, and that would streamline the construction that has to happen in CBTC in the room itself.
I'll just jump in and say, Director Allen, that these are enabling works. These are going to allow us the opportunity to advance the CBTC project. So without doing this work and that interlocking, we won't be able to move that work forward. So it's.
I understand.
Thank
you. So you've given me two details of what this work entails. Is that it? Is there more to this $17 million scope of work?
Well, so the primary portion of this item here is to facilitate the infrastructure under the turnouts that we're going to replace in 2020, late 2023, 24 and 25. And then that'll all be between MacArthur and the East Portal at 19th Street, which we have critical projects here at BART, Fairgates, CBTC, Fleet of the Future. In 2024 and 25, that project will be mission critical. It's
The project we're talking about.
That's correct.
Okay, and then the other question is, I see that we only had 2 bidders on this contract and really only 1 competitive bidder that was within our, even close to our engineer's estimate. Are we still struggling to get construction contractors to build on, to bid on a $17 million contract?
We're not seeing any difficulty, Director. We can't answer exactly why we only got 2, but we did invite many, many more. It's a possibility that there was a backlog after COVID where a lot of bidders are not willing to take on more work right now until they clean that up. And also the market is a little bit rough with supply chain, but otherwise, that's my answer at this time.
Okay, so can we actually explore, because my understanding of the industry right now is that it's softening quite a bit and that the backlogs have from COVID have really, started to catch up. And so can we actually explore why we would only get 2 bidders? 4 people went to the job walk and only 2 people submitted bids. And we've been here before, and we made some progress for a little while where we were getting 5 or 6 bidders on some projects, and it seems like now we're back to 2. And I don't think that's really even, I'm not even sure it's appropriate for us to approve a project where only 2 people bid the job and only one of them really was within a competitive range.
We did communicate by email to 5 prospective bidders, Director, and we had 38 plan holders that downloaded the contract book. So there was some interest.
Okay, but only 4 attended the job walk. So, okay, I would just appreciate us, if you could maybe get back to me after the fact, and maybe somebody should reach out to the 5 people you communicated with by email, or maybe even more than that, and let's start to understand why we're only getting 2 bids on us only, and this is really a relatively small project for $17 million. And I wouldn't even expect to see Clark Construction bidding on $17 million projects because they're typically bidding much larger projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Ames.
Thank you. I just wanted to look at this fiscal impact section. So it looks like we have 10 million available fund balance with this project. So what other work is expected for the CBTC enabling works, I guess is my question.
So this work, it's focusing on the K-35, and there are other enabling work project that's carrying around, but this one is focused on just one local area, and therefore the $10 million will be reserved for the project, any of the change order contingencies.
Is there also maybe, I know there's contingencies. I mean, what about, is operations going to do some of the work in this regard with the 10 million? I just was trying to figure out how we could describe this a little bit better. Maybe this is a controller treasurer question as well, but if we have a balance, it would be nice to know what the balance would be used for in the future. So I'm just trying to get some insight. Sorry, I didn't prep you on this question ahead of time.
That's okay. Director, thank you for the question. Sylvia Lamb, Assistant General Manager for Infrastructure Delivery. As Jeremy said, the balance will be used. The Enabling Works project is multiple places across the system overall to support CBTC coming online. When you hear the next presentation, there'll be a touch on that. So that $10 million will be used for different areas. What we try to do is piggyback that on other work that's going on. So if we're already going to do an interlocking replacement, for instance, we do the Enabling Works as well and take advantage of that same shutdown. So the K line is coming up, and that's why we're doing this. As far as your question about BART forces, it's a combination of BART forces and contractor. This one specifically is contractor.
Thank you. I think it would be more clear if we showed what the 10 million balance would be used for in the future. If we have a project budget, sure. And I understand this is in a sensitive area where, it's called the Y area, I suppose. It's the right. Y, I suppose, and this is a, critical junction for BART, so we need to get this done. But it would be good to start tracking what the balance of these projects would be used for. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, can we go to the vote?
Certainly. Director Saltzman. Yes. Director Simon. Director Allen.
Yes.
Director Ames.
Yes.
Director Dufty.
Yes.
Vice President Foley.
Aye.
Director McPartlin.
Aye.
Director Rayburn.
Yay.
President Lee.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And Shane, let's turn it over to the next item with an update on the computer-based train control.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Foley, Directors Shane Edwards, AGM of Operations. The next item is for information on the CBTC update, and presenting today will be Lynn Williams.
Good morning. Can we bring up the slide? Thank you. Good morning, President Lee and board members. I'm Lynn Williams. I'm the Assistant Chief of Core Capacity, and it's exciting to bring you this update on communication-based train control. This is the modernization project that increases the frequency of trains and improves the reliability of the system. So it replaces and modernizes our 50-year-old train control signaling system. I'll keep it easy to understand so you can take away the basics of communication-based train control, which we'll refer to as CBTC. You'll see how the current system runs with what are track circuits that used fixed blocks and how it will run more effectively with moving blocks. You'll get updates on the significant level of effort and progress that has been made on the design, including starting construction and the manufacturing of components for the Hayward test track. You'll gain insight into how CBTC will roll out across the system and a look ahead for the project. Okay, to understand the future CBTC system and its benefits, let's walk through how the current train control system works. It's made up of a series of blocks along the trackway. This is showing a train moving across the track. The track circuits are organized into fixed blocks, and they're adhered to the track. They're anywhere between 50 and 1,200 feet long, and typically a 10-car train covers approximately 2 blocks as shown in this animation. Okay, the trains must have 2 track circuits between them at all times. That's where you see on the screen where it says buffer. A train cannot advance until the train in front moves further, putting greater than 2 blocks between the 2 trains. This is how a fixed block system limits the quantity of trains in the system. The speed is also fixed within a block. So, as you saw in the animation, throughput is limited with the current fixed block system. There are additional limitations to understand with this system. There is no flexibility to change speed codes within the block. The speed codes are also limited to specific speeds, such as 27 miles per hour, 50 miles per hour. These are the only speeds that the trains can go. Another limitation, the headway or distance, I mentioned it before, is limited to 2 track circuits, which on average is around 1,500 feet. Now, due to these constraints that speed and frequency cannot be changed, it is very difficult to recover from delays. On the physical side, the physical limitations, the 50-year-old track circuits reside in and beside the trackway. These are impacted by weather. Significant heat and cold result in faults, causing disruptions to service. The current equipment is located within the wayside, so in the event of an equipment failure, it requires blanket work or single tracking around the track in order to service it. In addition, cabling and fibers are impacted by rodents, chewing on them, due to the access points that have opened up over the many years, resulting in damage to this equipment. So now you understand the limitations of the 50-year-old equipment of this signaling system. There is also a significant operational limitation to understand. The why. We mentioned it earlier. Here you are looking at the Y. Did you know it's spelled W-Y-E? and it is a triangle of railroad tracks used for turning trains. There's actually a technical definition for that. There is a series of tracks in the center of Oakland, and we know where it is. It's between 12th Street, Lake Merritt, and West Oakland. It is the heart of BART that pumps trains through the system. The Oakland Y is the geographic center of the BART system, and it is the bottleneck for the whole system because every regularly scheduled BART train, except for the Oakland Airport Connector and eBART, passes through it. So before we discuss the milestone of getting 30 trains through the Transbay Tube, they have to get through that Y. So let's look at the system map and see how the trains line up to get through the Y. Now, here's the big picture. How and where the trains are going to line up through the Y to get 30 trains within an hour to the Transbay Tube. We take a look at Richmond at the top of the screen. It takes about 25 minutes to get to West Oakland. So there would be about 4 trains between the end of the line and the start of the TBT, and this line will continue to feed trains into the Y during that hour. Okay? For Antioch, it takes about 45 minutes to get to West Oakland from the transfer platform. So there are about 7 trains between the end of the line and the start of the TBT. And down at Berryessa, it takes roughly 55 minutes to get to West Oakland. So the trains you see on the map would already be in the system when that hour starts. And additional trains will come from Dublin and Pleasanton. But you can see from this graphic that there has to be trains filling the system as close together as possible to get the 30 trains through the Y, which is the final milestone for the contract. Let's look at some animation up close of how the CBTC train control system works and how it brings the trains closer together. All right, this is a whole different concept. Here there are no fixed blocks or speed codes. The only limitation between trains is a safety distance. The trains communicate through radio signals between the train and the OCC and back to the train. The trains can accelerate or decelerate depending on the location of the train in front of it and the design of the track. We can go to a 2-minute headway, recover more quickly from delays, and not have the types of delays from an old 50-year-old signaling system with this new state-of-the-art moving block system. There are more benefits to this system as well. You know, throughout our day, from searching online to mapping directions, technology tells us exactly where we are at any time and has revolutionized our lives. CBTC does that for rail transit. The evolution of the technology and the experience gained in operation over the last 30 years means that modern CBTC systems are more reliable and less prone to failure than older train control systems. CBTC offers a smoother ride since there's no longer a transition of traveling from one block to the next where the 2 blocks may be at a different speed. We've talked about the frequency. You now understand how we can increase the frequency of trains. Trains can be more in the system at one time. New technology. Rebuilding the BART system for today and the future requires the need for new technology, and CBTC, it's a more sustainable system. We are able to increase service without increasing actual tracks, and it's more maintainable. It's able to be upgraded and keep up with technology and innovations through software. With all of these benefits, let's look at how we transform the system into CBTC. Let's start with the basics. Okay, there's 3 areas and equipment identified here on the screen. There's vehicles, software, hardware, and wayside. The colors on the screen correspond to these equipment types and general locations. So looking at the image on the screen, starting with the rail car in the center, it has a computer on board the train. That's called a car-borne controller. This connects all the functions of the vehicle to one computer. There's also an antenna on the roof and a speed sensor on the axles or near the wheels. The equipment that is along the trackway, it's called a transponder, and it goes between the tracks. This acts kind of like the fast track pass. You know, so when a train travels over the transponder, the signal from the transponder sends a message over, there's a blue box that says transponder interrogator antenna. Those two talk to each other, and then it sends the signal that tells the antenna, the message is, it gives the direction, the speed, and the location. This information is then shared via, there's a rooftop antenna. And then over here on the wayside in the train control room, there's a series of software and hardware that is installed, and each performs a unique function. We have this local ATS, front AM, but basically each one of those manages vehicle data, operations data, or operations of the interlock. And then there's additional equipment installed wayside. There's a box there called a zone controller and a wayside wireless antenna. The whole system is tied together with the computer and software at the operations control center. The antennas use radio communications that enables trains to detect their position from each other and from locations along the trackway. So how will this be implemented at BART? We issued a notice to proceed to Hitachi STS as the contractor to execute this design-build contract. What is in the scope of this project and contract? I'll just highlight a few that are on the screen here. I want to bring your attention to the top. The first is testing concepts and installing CBTC equipment at the test tracks at the Hayward test track. This work has already started with duct banks and cables being installed. The scope covers implementing a new automatic train supervision system. This is the software technology produced and designed by Hitachi. This is one of their core products. It overlays into the existing software at the OCC, and it will enable us to run the system with CBTC in one area and traditional track circuits in the other as we migrate through the system. This isn't a big bang approach. Everything is phased. So we have to figure out, how do we run it in a phased approach? There are 2 milestones in the contract. The first is it will enable us to meet the capacity of 28 trains per hour through the Transbay tube with the phase 4 implementation. And you'll see at the end where the phase 4 is. The second milestone is the final capacity of 30 trains per hour through the Transbay tube occurs after implementation through phase 8. This is across the entire system. I have a slide coming up that will show you the various phases, so we will get to see that. But let's delve into the specific scope of work for the 3 areas and equipment that has been identified. Are you with me? Okay. I know, it's long, but this is fascinating. So we've got wayside, software, hardware, and vehicles. This highlights these 3 concurrent areas of the project happening at the same time. And up at what you see on the screen is just a glimpse in the types of equipment that will be installed on this project. On the wayside, it is an incredible amount of equipment. We've got 4,500 transponders between the trackway, 1,100 radio antennas, miles and miles and miles of cable and fiber. If we talk about the software, I mentioned it's not one type of software. It's software at the OCC, software in the computer wayside, and software on the vehicles. On the vehicle side, it's multiple types of equipment that BART forces will be installing. I've got more information to show you on what it will take to transform a train into a CBTC equipped train. And I'm excited to share with you the progress that we've made thus far. On the wayside, performed by the contractor at the Hayward test track, under the ground you'll find 320 feet of buried duct bank and 90 feet of armor cast cable. Surveys and assessments are ongoing at the W line and the M line. Wayside progress includes the enabling work. Thank you for approving the latest construction contract to improve the infrastructure at the K line. This is critical to our project. BART forces have been performing enabling work and will continue to during the process of rebuilding interlocks. For instance, when an interlock is replaced, we install a duct bank underneath the new trackway to carry future CBTC cables and fiber. Train control rooms have had asbestos assessments and abatements performed already, as well as work in the train control room throughout various lines. Okay, moving on to the software hardware progress. This is by far my favorite. So this CBTC project, it's difficult to physically see the results until now. That perception has vanished. A few weeks ago, myself and a small team, we took a trip to the Hitachi Center of Excellence in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This photo captures the work that is being completed at their manufacturing facility in Batesburg, South Carolina. What you are looking at is BART equipment under construction, under manufacturing. It shows the cables and racks and servers that will be installed, tested, and sometimes destructively tested, and then to ensure that it can withstand our elements like fog and sun, and then rebuilt again. These racks and servers will be loaded into a train control room in South Carolina and then unplugged, and the whole train control room, then filled with all this equipment, will be trucked over 2 mountain passes across the United States and arrive at the Hayward Test Track late next summer. We see the fruits of all of those hours of design in that hardware. And I want to share with you, in Pittsburgh, their technology team, they fielded question after question from us. They had simulators of our entire BART system there that were up and running, and the employees knew as much about our system as we do. It really built up my confidence in the core product of CBTC that Hitachi STS is delivering for BART and has delivered around the globe. So moving on to the vehicle. I mentioned earlier what it takes for BART forces to convert a train to be CBTC equipped. Let's look at the specifics. We have 2 types of cars in our fleet of the future: D cars that are the cab cars, and E cars that are non-cab cars. What we see here is a showcase of the where and what equipment goes on a D car. On the top, a roof antenna. In the cab is that car-borne controller. This goes in the cab of the cars. On the axles, holes are drilled and a speed sensor and bracket are attached. This provides us with one of the most important parameters, the speed of the car. The vehicle, software, hardware, and wayside equipment, they all come together to deliver a signaling system that becomes its greatest value when used by operations. It touches all our operations employees and requires training operators at Operations Control Center, maintenance teams who service the equipment, train operators who will use an over and back switch to move between CBTC territory and track circuits during the migration. Implementing CBTC is not an easy journey, but it's worth it. And like other technology, once it's in place, you wonder how you ever lived without it. And now I teased earlier on showing you the migration plan. Here it is. So on the left side is the proposed migration plan overlaid on the system map. Migration means converting over that area with CBTC to run CBTC equipped vehicles with CBTC wayside, basically operating with under CBTC. The first phase 0, shown at the Hayward Test Track, is where this track is in the process of being converted over to a CBTC test track, where the whole system will be tested. This is the location where that first train control hut will be installed. Phase 1 is at the OCC. This is where computers, servers, racks, and that automatic train supervision software is installed at the OCC. Now, on the lower left corner, you see phase 2. This is from Millbrae to Colma. With migration complete in this area, it will be the first time riders experience a train running with CBTC. This phase 2 represents the area where our most fragile and sensitive signaling system is. This outdated equipment is difficult to acquire and it has frequent faults. There is an urgency to replace this specific signaling system on the W line. The project has some strategies to accelerate completing phase 2, such as running what's called a captive fleet, which is a fleet that CBTC converted and dedicated to run on the lines that go to SFO, instead of converting over all of the vehicles at once. I mentioned earlier about this phased approach. Everything is phased, including this captive fleet. Another option is resequencing a test track at Dublin to after the W line is nearly complete to keep the construction forces focused on the W line. In the 2-year look-ahead schedule on the right, what pops out is the amount of ongoing parallel work. The phase 2 W line is at the bottommost portion of the schedule. It is currently under design with construction beginning mid next year in this area. There are 4 pilot cars that will be the first to be retrofitted and tested on the Hayward test track. By mid-25, production cars will begin being retrofit by the BART forces. We are committed to meeting the current FFGA commitment of 28 trains through the Transbay Tube by 2030. This is a generational project, and thank you to those who had the early vision to see it through thus far. And a special thank you to Dave Hart, our RS&S chief, who is to be up here with me, but retired yesterday. Yeah, so his early enthusiasm on this project and the fleet of the future ensured that this will be the game changer for BART. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, kind of a little bomb there at the end with Dave
Oh,
retiring.
sorry.
That's all. But yes, yes. CBTC, so good. So thank you for the update on that. Let us turn to public comment.
I didn't receive any speaker cards, but I do see a hand raised on Zoom. So we'll go to Alita. Alita, please go ahead.
Thanks again, Chair Marcoli. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her. CBTC is one of my favorite topics. And I really like this presentation with the animations and very comprehensive explanation, both of how this system works and also of how we're going to implement it. I had no idea that the W line, which is one of our newer lines, had the most sensitive issues with signaling. I would think that we would have had the most issues on an older section, such as the main line through San Francisco. Learn something new every day. You got to find out why that the W line is having these problems. But I believe in the future of CBTC for these many reasons that were said. And I have experienced CBTC, as I have said before, by riding the New York City subway. I ride the 7 line virtually, the 7 service on the Flushing line virtually every day. And I've used the L, and there also have some of it operational, I think, on the 8th Avenue line and some in Queens Boulevard and Queens. So it's moving pretty fast there. So it's a good product going forward. It can't come soon enough. I still find myself at times. On Monday, we pulled out of MacArthur. I was heading to the Oakland airport, and we were crawling along, and we stopped, and I'm thinking, why sometimes are our trains crawling along at walking pace? Something has to be done, and I don't recall any times on the New York City subway on the CBTC enabled sections where we crawled at walking pace. The communication between the trains certainly allows for a smoother operation, and it is proven that the service levels on the 7 and the L, I'd say, are probably the best in that system. So how do we take things? I mean, a lot of this is happening overseas, And a lot of automated people movers use CBTC, that I found out. But in New York, it's the only heavy rail system in the United States that's using it. So I think it's important for us to experience it. Yeah, I guess for now that will require a flight to New York City, and to be able to do as I did. But CBTC is not just about building a better system and a safer system, but it reflects the ideal that BART is the people system. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita.
We have an additional hand raised. Next speaker is John. John, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, board directors, general manager, president of the board, Janice Lee. I just want to say that our train control technicians have done miracles over the last decades, keeping this very old system working. And this project, CBTC, is a great example of the teamwork that we have been doing for, I believe, a decade, because this dream occurred about 10 years ago. And Dave Hart was very instrumental in bringing labor and management together. How can we make this work? How can we make it successful? How can we go through all these transitions and making sure that we are ready to deliver? And also want to thank Shane Edwards, the AGM of operations, for all the hard work he has done together with Dave Hart and working with us. Quarterly updates we have received. Our chief stewards representing the classifications. They're going to be doing this work. I've been president, providing input, and we know there's going to be challenges. This is not going to be easy. This is going to be very hard. So ATU with SEIU, we'll be working together to make sure this is successful, and then we will have a much better system, faster, quicker, reducing delays and ability to recover from the delays. So I just want to say thank you to the board. Thank you for the leadership of the general manager for engaging with us in this project, and continue the partnership to lead to success. And hopefully other projects will use this as a model, how we can work together to do something better. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We always appreciate the support of our labor partners. Madam Secretary, do we have any other virtual speakers?
I don't see any additional hands raised.
All right, and there is no blue card in-person speakers?
I didn't see any speaker cards, and I don't see any hands out in the audience.
All right. Well, let's turn to directors' comments. Let's see, I have directors Rayburn, McPartland, Allen, President Lee, and Ames. Let's start with Robert.
Thank you very much, Chair Foley. And learning about Dave Hart moving on, it's kind of a kick in the stomach. I remember he was attending the APTA Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C., now probably a decade ago. And at that time, he had been heading up the shop over in Daly City, where I would go visit quite frequently and see his good deeds and talk about building up BART's system to have the capacity to maintain our fleet. And he's been busy accomplishing those tasks ever since. I wish him the best. Great presentation, Lynn and Sylvia and Shane. I really appreciate the work that's gone into this. A couple of brief questions. You mentioned 2030s when we can expect the project to be completed to the Transbay tube. So that's through the Y, through the tube. And is that then completion of phase 8?
No, that's phase 4.
Phase 4.
Phase
So
4.
at phase 4, we'll be at 28 trains.
Yes.
And basically, that's about the schedule that we've been talking about for several years now. So I want to applaud that we're on track and moving forward. And I like the idea that all these projects are copacetic, so that we're working with track as well as putting the conduits under the new interlockings as we upgrade our facilities. After the briefing the other day with you, I got on a BART train, and I was thinking about that slide number 7 that showed smoother ride. And so I backed away from the pole in the train and just sort of balanced and surfed along. And I noted those speed changes from down from 36 to 27, or up from 36 to 50 to 60 to 70. And you do sense that, and you have to maintain your balance today. And I was gratified to chat this morning and learn that that will go away with the train control system, that it truly will be a continuous acceleration or deceleration without the herky-jerky movements. I think we can't ask for more. Well, safety.
Yes.
Of course, at the highest level. But this is a very exciting project, and I think that it's tracking well for such a major project. You know, it's in good hands, and I hope we have somebody grooming through the APTA leadership training to take Dave Hart's place. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Rayburn. Before we continue with director comments, Deputy Jones, did you want to?
Absolutely. Good morning again, directors. I'll just address the Dave Hart comment before I get 8 other additional comments. So Dave's retirement plan came together very rapidly. He literally provided notice the Friday after our last board meeting, and when we had his retirement party yesterday out at Hayward, the way he wanted it, with about 300-400 of his staff. Shane and I were out there. We were able to scramble and get him a crystal train. He closed on his house literally a few days ago, and he has a 5th-wheeler and a 3-ton Ram, or I think it's a Ram. And he's literally headed out to Salt Lake City probably today to visit his son, and then he's headed on down to, I think, South Carolina, and then back up. So Dave's out of here. He wasn't waiting around for a whole bunch of fanfare, but we normally, obviously, especially with someone like Dave, I was on the Leadership APTA committee when Dave, before I even came to BART, when Dave was in that program. So I have a affinity for Dave. We would certainly acknowledge him, but his plans came together very quickly, and it didn't allow for the fanfare that, you know, someone of his stature is deserving of. But we do have plans in place. John Garnerman is still here for Fleet of the Future. He's probably, hopefully not going anywhere. Leo Pica, who Dave has groomed for the last several years as the assistant chief, will be stepping in an acting capacity. So I just wanted to address that he left on very good terms, but he left pretty rapidly. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. All right, let's return to director comments, and we'll start off with Director Allen, followed by President Lee.
So thank you, Director Rayburn. My questions really revolved more around that last slide on the schedule, because I don't think it's really clear when this project is complete. So you said that we would have 28 trains going through the Transbay Tube by 2030. That's our current goal. Was that our original goal? Because I really thought there was like a completion of 2028 originally.
So that 2030 is the commitment in the FFGA that provides our funding.
Okay.
So we need the funding, we need to meet that requirement.
I guess I was around well before the funding came around, and back in, when I started learning of this project, I think the goal was actually a lot sooner. So if the goal is really only for the first 4 phases to be complete by 2030, what's the rest of the plan for the other 4 phases, right? There's 8?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be through phase 8, and it would come after that. So
do we have a target for completion of the whole project?
2033.
33? Okay, thank you.
But keep in mind, it's design build, it's a very agile delivery method, and 2033 is a long way off as well. So I just preface it with that.
I agree, but we have to have goals.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because really timelines drive cost, right?
Yes,
And so if
absolutely.
we don't meet 2033, then cost goes up always. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Allen. Let's go to President Lee, followed by Director Ames.
Thank you. So for me, this presentation definitely lived up to my expectations of getting an update about CPTC that was accessible enough for me as a layperson. I do think that, a lot of my questions are around timeline and budget, but it was really super helpful to see the breakdown of what the work and the implementation looks like, especially in that last slide where you have the different milestones and timelines. So I would say keep using that as a template in terms of getting updates to the board. I do think eventually it would be good to have a version where the timeline also shows what the actual rider benefit is, whether it's just even for each of the phases, because I think while all the behind the scenes infrastructure is critical to get to the end benefits, I think whatever we can show to the public in terms of reliability, increased trains, whatever it is, I think is great. So for a board director and the public, I think always the main two important pieces for major projects like this are timeline and budget. So I have a few questions here. For you all, what are the key indicators for whether the project is remaining on time and on budget?
So we look at what our spending is per month, and we look at where we are within we break it down, did we achieve what we wanted to achieve for the next 30, 60, 90 days specifically? We're focused right now on the Hayward test track. We're focused on and keep in mind, there's all these things happening at the same time, but for each one of the elements, whether it's the vehicles, we're focused on getting designs complete and getting material procured. For Wayside, we're focused on the Hayward test track and software and hardware. Within the 30 days, we're focused on actually running a shadow mode test at the OCC in the next 30 days. So that's what we focus on.
Yeah, so for each of the breakdowns, I know you've sort of bucketed the vehicle software Wayside, but generally, what are the indicators showing?
So the indicators would be the percent complete that we have.
Are they all on, how are they doing, I guess?
Okay, with multiple things, there's some things, for instance, the vehicle design is always a challenge, but the software is ahead. ATS is one of our, ATS stands for the software it is. That's a very robust portion of this project. We're very comfortable with that. So we have areas that we're really confident in that are moving very well. We've got a strong team. It's Hitachi's core product. And then other areas, the Hayward test track, we started construction in March. We're continuing starting in January of this coming year. We stay focused on that. We monitor the amount of effort that we're putting in and the things that we can see. I'm a very tangible person. I have to see it.
Let me, if you don't mind, Director Lee, Sylvia Lamb, Assistant General Manager. There are elements of this project that are ahead. There are elements of this project that are slightly behind. Luckily, this is a design build project, and as you can see, there are multiple things moving in parallel. So the key milestones are being met for each thing. And as Lynn said, we take a look at 3033, but that's a long ways out. And so in order to meet that, you got to look at what's in front of you first, right? Where's your next exit? Where's your, next turn? And so we break that down in a 30, 60, 90, and a 1 year, 2 year look ahead. So, and we are constantly looking for mitigations or recovery what if this happens? What would we do next? So overall, we're feeling good about the commitment that we've made for the longer term, but we are continually looking at the strategies. We're continually looking at the P6 schedules and how these pieces come together.
Right. I know you're giving a pretty generic answer here, but I mean, ultimately it's oh, this slipped by a month and, we actually hit this problem and this is taking longer than we expect. And when you add that up over many, many years, suddenly the 2033 is much longer. Or for me, it's just can we get to phase one? Right. Right? For me, it's these early phases, working them out, because I would imagine, especially for phase 3, if you can get this figured out with all the tracks running through downtown San Francisco, I would like to think we're going to be okay for, phase 6, 7, 8, right? So maybe let's offline this a little bit more, because I do want to get the details of the individual pieces and what you're learning about what's maybe harder and what might be going faster.
So sort of last question on this. I know for a lot of projects, especially for something that is progressive design build, there are sort of key moments that help you know whether your project can really remain on time and on schedule. Basic example here is like for a major utility project, it's often the moment you actually like dig into the ground and you're like, does what we see when we dig in match the surveys that we had been, planning on? So for CBTC, what would you say are the major milestones ahead that will continue to really hone in that timeline schedule, things that we should, as a board, be aware of?
I'll let Lynn add to this also, but I just want to go back to when you said those moments that you know whether you're okay or you're not okay. When we went to see Hitachi and seeing all that equipment and all the simulators running the BART system, like mirroring the BART system today, that was the teller for me. But for the board, I think the next few things is the summer of next year when we have the OCC implementation of the ATS software. That's the next thing to look for, and also the pilot cars at the Hayward test track.
Okay, great. And then just sort of lastly, looking ahead, are there any EDDs or contracts that will come before this board that we should be aware of? Because I know we just did have another award today.
There's a couple change orders in the works. There's a new technology called sleep mode on the vehicles that will be coming. It enables us to put the vehicle to sleep and then wake it up anywhere within the system, so that if we need to park vehicles with alternative storage, it will enable that to happen. So that's coming in the next 6 months.
And also there'll be additional awards and EDDs for enabling works, further enabling works. To Director Zame's question, we'll try to put something together so that the next time we come to you, you can see kind of what the future items will be coming.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this update. I really appreciate it. I'll pass it back to VP Foley.
Thank you. Let's go to Director Ames, followed by Director Simon.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the Enabling Works project. And so we've got that 10 million or so left in that project budget, I guess it is. But we're going to do more than that area because that's in phase 4, correct? If I'm looking at the Enabling Works that we are working on, that we just approved, is that in phase 4?
Crosses, yes.
I think so. It's
phase
the
4. Yeah, between 3 and 4.
between 3 and 4. Okay, gotcha. Because it's West Oakland. I gotcha. So it would be good to see project budgets. This is what I have a note here from Director Allen, but do we have a budget for each phase of the project? I guess, and this is kind of what I was getting to with the Enabling Works. So if we could see the Enabling Works, we could see the train control system, I guess that would be a project budget for each phase, right? It would be complete. And that way we can track if we're on budget and on schedule. So I am concerned about the schedule terminating theoretically in 2033 because we're only roughly halfway done by 2030. So that's a problem because I thought we were going to be complete with the entire project. Maybe I got that wrong, I suppose. The entire project was going to be done by 2030 because that was the Silicon Valley extension deadline, and now that's moved. So just wanted to understand the deadline is 2033, and that came from the contract with Hitachi. Sorry, this is a lot of technical questions, but.
So I'll start, Director, and then maybe Shane can weigh in.
Okay.
Phase 8 is Silicon Valley, I believe, right?
Phase 8, okay.
And so that is coincident with the BSV2 schedule project, and there's some interdependencies there that need to be, so that's partially of what's driving that date. Shane, did you want to add anything about that? Yeah, just for clarity, you're asking about the complete system, correct?
Correct, to get to San Jose, and that would be phase 8.
So phase 8 gets us to our current system, which is end of line Berryessa S55. Okay, that's phase 8.
That's phase 8, okay.
The old phase 9 we brought to the board some time ago that with the idea that VTA and BART will collaborate and they will go out on their own procurement for phase 2. That being said, though, they are in contact with Hitachi and they will have a like product so that we don't have multiple systems on our system again, like we do now. So that communication is ongoing, but VTA phase 2 is their project. They will be handling the procurement of CBTC for their project. So it'll be more seamless. So whenever they're done, we will be able to cut over, knowing the product already. It'll already installed in the cars, for example. It'll make it more seamless to cut over phase 2. Phase 8 completes our current system.
Okay, so we're gonna, that timeline could move for, between Berryessa and San Jose. So that timeline is on a design build track with VTA. So that one, we don't know when that could be 2035. So what you're saying is 2033, we would be done at Berryessa
Well,
with our CBTC system that we have.
the current schedule just last week from VTA was 2036, I believe, for phase 2.
Correct, but this system here, we're gonna be complete by 2033 for phase 8, which goes to Berryessa. Is that correct?
Correct?
Okay. It looks like we're gonna be behind schedule because by 2030, we're gonna be done with 4 phases and we have 8. Anyway, I'm just saying that we need to start looking at this a little closer on the timing, because it looks like we're gonna be not meeting our schedule. I mean, possibly we will. I just don't know how we're gonna do it at this point. Anyhow, I was also curious to understand this whole issue with the critical path is really completing phase 0. So you're gonna bring all that as server equipment over to Hayward, the Hayward's yard, and you're gonna test this out with OCC, right? You're gonna start really implementing this, system here in the Bay Area with phase 0.
Phase 0 is the OCC. The servers and equipment, the very first thing that happens is the equipment goes to the OCC.
Oh, okay.
It starts there. And then after that, additional servers and racks show up at the Hayward test track in the form of a train control room.
Okay, and the OCC is gonna be under construction soon, correct? They're doing a remodel?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so then when that equipment shows up, we're gonna be ready for this new equipment in the new OCC, which is great. And that'll tie in with the phase 0 testing. It's kind of hard to follow this because there's all these things going on at the same time. But anyway, okay. And then when we go to phase 1, that really is completing the whole, that we're dialing in the system. That's really another huge milestone for us because then we can deploy that through the entire system to phase 8, which is Berryessa. Okay, and then the enabling works and the CBTC work, those are like project budgets. It would be great to see like, what is our budget for phase 2 and the timing for that? It looks like we have it here. It looks like we're gonna be done by 2025. Is that correct? For phase 2. Phase 2, it says wayside equipment design, field inspection. So theoretically, we could be testing phase 2 at the end of 2025.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this is good news. I just don't see the enabling works project here, which I think we would be doing just like we just approved for today for the part of 3 and 4.
Right, so the enabling works is ongoing.
Yeah.
On a separate parallel path. And that's because like what you mentioned as far as the one that you approved today is in phase 4. And as we do other work, we take advantage of that to do as much work as we can during that shutdown or during that other track work. And so the enabling works does not need to be done in the same phasing that the CBTC has to be done, but it has to be done before you get to a certain phase.
Well, it seems like we would see that shortly because if we have a deadline here to finish by 2025, I mean, obviously that's got to happen pretty soon. But I appreciate the schedule. I think it'd be good to come back with a little bit more detail on the project budgets to Director Allen's question to me. We want to see a project budget for each phase. And that would tie in with the schedule as well. And it gets to President Lee's comment about how do we stay on time and on budget. So we'll just continue the dialogue and I appreciate all of this work. This is really a lot of information in one setting. So I thank you.
Thank you. I have Director Simon followed by Director Saltzman.
Thank you. I have a comment and a question that doesn't need to be answered here. I think it's a question that hopefully we'll continue to receive updates on. But before I go into that particular comment, I just want to say how amazing it is to have leaders in transportation who are women, who are taking us through a conversation about the very deep, the next decade of what BART is going to look like. It's just extremely inspiring, and I hope you all do this very, very intense presentation to the young women who will be here at the event on Friday. I think it's inspiring and amazing, and it tells a story really about the thousands and thousands of hours of work that have been put into this project. And I just wanted to lift up, as you all are talking about what we plan to do, it was in 1993 that I was a high school junior and came with a program called Travel and Tourism to see, with other students, to see the control room. And it was mind-blowing. And we got a beautiful presentation of workers that had been in that control room for years and years and years about the virtue of BART is, again, not just having trains that move, but having people that are behind the scenes that keep us all safe. And so I'm sure that folks in the train control room right now are not watching this meeting because they're keeping folks safe and moving trains through the system, but they are deeply unseen and unheard. And so I'm just so thankful for their work. And here it's my question is, it's a huge project. And how do we foresee in all of the stages bringing staff along, particularly because many of the folks who are in the control room right now, they have such a body of knowledge that has led us this far. They've mastered the current system, and we're talking about just a complete overlay of technology, of mores, of culture, and how we're not only moving more trains through the system, but the expectations of being, again, a state-of-the-art and world-class institution. So again, training and staff development and cultivation and working with labor partners. I don't need the answer now, but as much work has gone into the design of the actual project, I know so much of that is about the nucleus of the folks who are going to be central in implementation, and just wanted to lift that up. And thank you all so much for this presentation. It was wonderful.
Thank you. I have Director Salzman, followed by Director Allen, followed by Dufty.
Thank you so much for the update. I think this is maybe the most exciting project at BART that most people know nothing about. So the more we can do to spread the word, the better. I loved the animations in this presentation, and I guess this goes out to Rod and his team, but I'd love to see these put into the presentations that directors and staff, oh, here's Rod, make to various groups, because pre-COVID, when we did all these in person, I just kind of showed with my hands and could explain it, but now that we do a lot of them on Zoom, you can't really use your hands, so I think these animations are very helpful, just making people understand the significance of the blocks and just showing how it works. So that would be great to start getting out there. And then to Alicia, if you can do your magic to get this out to the broader public, I think people can get their minds around it, especially with the animations. I appreciate all the questions from the other directors, so I won't repeat those, but I agree that I'd like, moving forward, some more information on all of the timing, not just kind of on what you're going to do, but on what that actually means to the riders. And I had a question about, looking towards 2030 and having phase 4 complete. I know it's hard to plan out that far, but let's say we pass a regional measure before then, we have substantial operations money, we're able to run a lot more service. Have you started thinking about what that looks like? Are we doing some train turnarounds in the part of the system where we can run more frequency? So does that mean there's some more frequent trains going from, say, MacArthur into San Francisco, but trains are turning around in MacArthur, or from San Leandro or something like that? Are you starting to think about those possibilities for if we have ridership up and if we have the funding, how we're going to start utilizing this to its fullest before we have the full system implemented?
Director, that's a great question. Sylvia Lamb again. I would say we think about that constantly, constantly, every day. Service is very important. Obviously, I'll let Shane weigh in. I want to make sure, though, that we be a little bit patient. We got to get through phase 2 before, but the beauty of having a design build program and having all these things moving in parallel is that once we get past phase two, there will be opportunities, for instance, for us to come up with other strategies potentially to speed up other phases.
Yeah, I would just add, Director, that we are modeling many different scenarios, but some of it has to be based on changes that will be made while CBTC is being implemented. For example, the track geometry, we may have a speed code of 50 miles an hour on it right now in a certain section. With CBTC, we might be able to travel at 53 or 54 miles an hour. We have to take a look at that, how that changes the model. And my planning and scheduling staff is engaged with engineering and looking at that now.
Let me just jump in. Can
Go
I,
ahead.
I'm sorry, President Salzman, Director Salzman. Let me ask Val to step up here because part of the answer is BART Metro 2030, and Val is running point for BART on that. So Val Minotti, Chief Planning Officer.
Hi. Yes, we did complete an update of the BART Metro study, working closely with operations, looking at scenarios and kind of a 10-year window, what demand might be, so we can bring that back to the board at some point.
That would be great. And yeah, the more I understand you have it figured out, you can't commit today that you're going to do that. But as you bring forward presentations, it'd be good to just hear about what you're considering. I know I hear this from riders a lot, like, you know, you're really crowded in this space in the core of the system. Can we run a few more trains there, even if we can't run them to the end of the line? And come 2030, it looks like that will make even more sense. So I think the more we can think about it, and the more we're able to articulate that as we go out for potential funding, will be really important. That, you know, you don't have to wait till 2033 for a huge service increase, that we can have some as this process moves along. I think the more we can demonstrate that, the better.
Thank you. Director Allen, you had an additional question, and then Director Dufty.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, you know, my question that I think Liz attempted to give with the budgets. And I think I'm just going to step back and say, you know, once upon a time back in 2018, I was in Washington, D.C., asking legislators to fund this project along with the other two major projects of BART. And at that time, I believe the estimates we were using for CBTC upon completion was 1.2 billion. So my question to you is, we've got capital grants from the FTA. What is our projected cost with respect to what they have, and they are, you know, what they believe the projected cost overall through phase 8? What is the total?
So we recently completed what's called a risk refresh. We did that in conjunction with the FTA, and they added some additional contingency for risk. So the final, the current BART CBTC value is 2.35 billion, is where we are between the FTA and BART.
Okay, so thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Director Allen. Just for clarification,
No, that's CBTC. Yeah, FTA risk refresh.
Was this two for? I'm sorry. I'll go with Lynn's answer. I thought it might have been inaccurate, but I'll stick with the subject matter expert. Thank you.
Okay. I believe Lynn. I believe you.
It's 2.35 billion.
Thank
But
you.
the project, the core of the project is funded.
Yes, and that's great that we were able to get that funding. But I think that, you know, being probably, I guess, the largest project we have that's within our control, you know, exclusive of the VTA extension, that we should be updated more regularly on the budgets. And I understand design build. I spent years in the construction industry. And I know things change on a large project that's going to span a decade, right? We expect it to change. But I would really like to see us, when we get an update on this project in particular, I'd like to see us also be presented with the budget for each phase. We're in phase 0. We should pretty well know what that's going to cost right now. And we probably should have a pretty good estimate of phase 1 and phase 2. And so if we could get in the future presentation of, here's that budget, I believe it's our fiduciary obligation to be watching how these budgets, you know, start and how they end. As I said, originally it was supposed to be
1.2 billion. We're almost at double that now. And that's no one's fault. I'm not placing any blame or saying anything bad about that. It's the nature of the way these innovative projects go. But I think it is our obligation to be overseeing that periodically and understanding how those costs go up. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Dufty, and then I will wrap it up.
Thank you. Lynn, I just want to thank you for a great presentation. I know you've got your bosses here and people on your team, but it was the best CBTC presentation that I've seen. And so I really appreciate your enthusiasm and energy, which we will need to take this to the finish line. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dufty. So I had a few questions. First off, thank you, Lynn. Yes, your enthusiasm was great. I appreciate it. I was geeking out, so that was wonderful. So I appreciate all of your energy around this. Couple of things. I do support what we're hearing from other directors about providing an update in the future on both budget and timeline by phase, just to see what that schedule is looking like and if there's a slip in the schedule. So we're aware of that in advance. So I would support that. On the slide when you talked about moving us from fixed block, which is a 1,500-foot headway, to a moving block signal, what's the reduction in the headway distance? What's the improvement that we gain by moving from fixed to moving block?
So you go down to at least one train car, which is around 700 feet. And
Okay.
you could be smaller than that, but you have to have a safe braking distance as well.
Got it. Okay. And I know Shane touched on this a little bit, but how does the fixed speeds change? In other words, what does that model look like in the new communication-based system versus the current one? Do we have new benchmarks? You listed like 4 different speeds that we maintain. How do those change?
So we have flexibility. The trains are not tied to a particular speed code, other than what the civil speed is fixed in that particular track area. That actually defines the speed for that train. It's what that track is designed to handle. If you're going around a curve, there's a particular speed that's limited for a curve versus a straightaway, with the maximum being 80 miles per hour.
Got it. Okay. So kind of looking into the crystal ball, and I know Shane was talking about modeling, but after phase 3, a train that's coming from, say, the yellow line going to SFO, what happens when it's on one schedule and speed through phase 7 and 4, and then it hits phase 3, which allows it to move faster? Just conceptually, I'm not looking for a timetable today, but I'm just wondering, how do you integrate those two schedules to affect, that's just another huge curveball in trying to manage our schedules. And then you throw in Caltrain and Millbrae. So I'm just saying, how does all that work together?
Well, good question, Director. I think it's an exciting exercise that I'm looking forward to, actually. But to your point, by that time, the vehicles will be dual equipped, so to speak. So they'll be able to flip a switch and go from one system to another. So there won't be delays there, so to speak. But to your point, in a fixed block area, we're restricted by the block. When you get into CBTC, your benefit is safe braking distance and increased possibly track speeds. So you're not tied to a block that's anywhere from 2,000 feet or more to 700 feet. So that restriction is lifted. So we'll have to take a look at how that fits in certain areas. And we were very calculated in how we break out these phases. And the reasoning by that was transfer points, for example, at MacArthur, things of that nature, where we know we have to make that scheduled stop, that scheduled meet, and we be able to tie it together with CBTC at a flip of a switch, and then potentially make up time on both sides. So we'll have to take a look at that in future schedules, but right now, that's the best answer I can give you for how the systems will marry up, so to speak.
Okay, understood. I would be interested in understanding how the schedule changes during a ride through the system, because you do have the ability to speed up service, if you will,
when you get into those sections that have been improved. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that shapes out.
If I
Sure,
could
Sylvia.
add to that.
Yeah.
One of the biggest benefits when we talk about the speed differences and being, Shane mentioned it a few minutes ago about being able to go 52, 53, 54 miles an hour is when there is something that happens on the track to be able to recover as soon as that's over and not have to wait till you're past that block to accelerate.
Got it. We can jump in the fast lane, if you will, to move past something. That's a good thing. All right, and the last thing I wanted to just sort of raise was, I know we've had challenges with our rail operation control center and training and bringing new folks on board. How are we going to integrate, and I know Director Simon touched on training, but how are we going to integrate as we hire old school, new school, and are people going to have to learn, I imagine, both systems for the next, decade plus? How does that integrate in, and have we approached that point yet? Are we talking about CBTC with new hires yet? When is that sort of on their agenda as part of a training module?
The CBTC simulator is being constructed as we speak. We have designated an area for it across the hall from the OCC, and that will be integrated into the new hire training for OCC controllers. And there's also a plan for during their annual training with the current controllers to integrate the CBTC into that. But the system is being built and the room is being remodeled at this time.
Super. Thank you for that. Madam President, that concludes the items for E&O today.
All right. Thank you again so much. I really appreciate that presentation. All right, so moving on, we have no planning, public affairs, access, and legislation items, so we're now going to go on to board matters, and as per usual, we will be combining board member reports, RCIs, and in memoriams. I will note I do have 2 in memoriams, including one for Senator Dianne Feinstein, so we just ask for you to hold your comments until I have a chance to read that. But do we have any board reports? Director Saltzman.
On Friday, I attended the Contra Costa Labor Council dinner and got to talk to a lot of our elected officials in Contra Costa County, but just wanted to note one conversation I had with Congressmember Garamendi, who represents the area I live in. He had taken BART to Dianne Feinstein's memorial, and he was just effusive in his praise. He hadn't been on in a while. He lives out of the BART district and, of course, is in D.C. a lot. And he just said it was so easy. It was very clean. He was able to get a lot of work done. It made him want to ride it even more. And he just was really impressed with all of the work we've done to improve the system. So I wanted to share that with the whole BART team, because everybody who works at BART, you're part of making that experience so positive.
Thank you. Director Rayburn, and then VP Foley.
Thank you. I have only 2 brief reports. On the 29th, I joined the CEO Ride-Along for Transit Month and went over to Palo Alto and was able to chat with a number of the executives from our partner agencies. On the 5th of October, I attended the 90th anniversary of the Lake Merritt Breakfast Club, and I want to thank Andy Kelly and Henry Simons for joining me at Children's Fairyland for that event. That's all.
Just a couple of items to share with my colleagues. On the 4th of October, Director Allen and myself attended the Pleasant Hill Leasing Authority meeting to discuss the Block D parcel in that location. Last night, I attended the Contra Costa Transportation Authority's Innovate 680 meeting, which talked about integration of signaling and how that can benefit transit and how ultimately that can get passengers from buses onto BART trains, which is always a good thing. And then last week, I attended the Contra Costa Mayor's Conference and did a presentation regarding the state of BART, if you will. And I want to thank Deputy Chief Vogan and Carrie Ellis for their super support. And also just a shout out to DC Vogan. He also helped present during the mayor's conference, did a fantastic job. So thank you for all of the support I received, and very well attended meeting as well. So thank you very much.
Director McPartlin and then Director Dufty.
I don't have anything to report, but I would like to give an in memoriam for all those who have lost their lives in Israel and the impact of all those both there as well as family members and those of us that care for our friends that have perished. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Director McPartlin. Director Dufty.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to represent BART at the Asian Inc. dinner, and Asian Inc. is a longstanding 52-year organization that helps to promote small businesses, and particularly started out in the Chinese American community in San Francisco. And I want to also note that the Asian American architects and engineers are later this month having a workshop as part of their annual celebration focusing on Link 21, which was very impressive to see and encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other board director comments, I have two in memoriams in addition to Director McPartlin's. The first one is for Geraldine Singleton. Miss Singleton passed away on October 2nd. She was Director Simon's mother-in-law, but Latifah just called her mother, given how close they were. Especially as Latifah was called upon to care for her for the past many years. May she rest in power and be reunited with her son. I have a second in memoriam here for our very honorable Senator Dianne Feinstein. I want to thank staff for helping put together some of these remarks. I adjourn this meeting in memory of Senator Dianne Feinstein, a trailblazer, pioneer, and champion for BART, the Bay Area transit in our state. A native of San Francisco, Feinstein began her political career in 1969 when she was elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. In 1978, she made history as the first woman to become president of the Board of Supervisors. Following the tragic assassination of Mayor George Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk, Feinstein was thrust into the national spotlight as she became San Francisco's first woman mayor, offering a steadying presence during a very difficult time. During her 10-year tenure as mayor, she secured $60 million in federal funds to renovate the iconic cable cars, prioritize funding for AIDS research during the early stages of the epidemic, and help make San Francisco into a financial and cultural hub. In 1992, Feinstein became the first woman from California to be elected to the U.S. Senate. During her 30 years in the Senate, she was a powerful voice for our state. Among her many pioneering accomplishments, including championing an assault weapons ban, becoming the first woman to chair the Senate Judiciary and Intelligence Committees, spearheading the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, sponsoring bills to legalize same-sex marriage and defend LGBTQ+ rights, Senator Feinstein inspired countless women to enter politics, and since her election, the number of women serving in the U.S. Senate has risen from 2 when she joined to 25 today. Senator Feinstein also worked tirelessly to ensure California received its fair share of federal funds by securing billions of dollars for the restoration of public lands, climate change mitigation, increasing water supply, transit projects, amongst many others. An advocate for public transportation and steadfast friend of BART, Senator Feinstein was instrumental in the effort to connect BART to the San Francisco and Oakland airports by securing over $750 million. During the depths of the pandemic, she advocated for critical emergency operations funding, which will keep BART afloat into 2025. Senator Feinstein ensured BART received vital security funding through the Transit Security Grant Program and was instrumental in BART securing a $1.2 billion FTA grant for the Transbay Corridor Core Capacity Project at a time when projects experienced extreme challenges moving through the CIG pipeline. With the return of the federal earmarks, the center also secured $2 million for BART for the Next Generation Fairgates project. We are eternally grateful to Senator Feinstein for her lifetime of public service. Our deepest condolences go out to her family, friends, and staff. Her trailblazing legacy will leave a lasting impact for generations to come.
Madam President, could I just briefly thank you so much for that very powerful statement recognizing Senator Feinstein. I just would like to reflect on the fact that I had the opportunity to go with some BART directors and our general manager, Robert Powers, to his first meeting with Senator Feinstein. And what was quite remarkable was that she walked in, and as she was introduced to Bob, she shook his hand vigorously and did not let go. And she said, "How is it possible that you don't have any gray hair?" She was absolutely nonplussed and just, I think, repeated it 3 times, like, how is it possible you don't have a single gray hair on your head? And it was pretty disarming, and very reflective of the senator who, called it as she saw it. And we had a great meeting. It was far-reaching on a lot of different topics, and it was at a time where there was a lot of discussion about a second crossing and what that might be like. But it started off a very great relationship, but it's something that I will always smile at. And Bob's got a few gray hairs now, but not too bad, not too bad, not too shabby. Thank you.
Thank you for that moment of levity. So we will now end our open session. We'll move into closed session. We have 2 items. One is a conference with real property negotiators, and the second is a conference with legal counsel around anticipated litigation. Do we have any public comment on these items?
I didn't receive any speaker cards, and I don't see any hands raised on Zoom.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. We have returned from closed session. There is nothing to report, so this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.